Thank you all for being here for MoAD's Open Mic Night series. We're thrilled to have poet Denise Masiel as our featured poet this evening. My name is Nia McAllister, and I'm the Senior Public Programs Manager at the Museum of the African Diaspora in San Francisco. MoAD is a contemporary art museum, and our mission is to celebrate Black cultures, ignite challenging conversations, and inspire learning through the global lens of the African diaspora. And so this Open Mic series is one of our many programs that we host at the museum. We have many offerings, both virtually and in person in our physical space. This series has been going on since 2018 and has been a space for community to come share, to come have our community bring their perspectives and their voices to our space, where we can find comfort and joy in each other's creativity, in each other's company. And our basic ground rule here is we always tend to respect. So those of you who are coming up as the performers tonight, and those of you in the audience, this is all about everyone together, supporting everyone in this space. So thank you in advance for being part of this community and part of this event. I appreciate everyone who signed up in advance to come up on the mic. I'll be dropping the lineup in the chat in just a moment. We're going to begin with our open mic readers and then make space for our incredible feature this evening, Denise, which I'm so excited for. Each reader will have about 5 minutes to share. I'll again put the list in the lineup and introduce everyone before you come up. And for those of you in the audience, I encourage you to be active participants. Please drop lines that stand out to you in the chat, reactions, any and all ways to support and show love to the folks coming up this evening. So with that, I would like to introduce Norm Maddox as our first open mic reader.
Hey, nice to see you again. Here we go. This is some new stuff. First piece I'm gonna throw down. A sad case of revenge. How do you fight a war against racism when hate is the weapon and never forget is the rallying cry and the short memory that they were once the victim? Problem is, the psyche doesn't recognize a negative. The default becomes forget. Maybe there's too many syllables, but always remember sounds the same message and always lasts as long as never. Impossible to imagine we've forgotten that victory did not come after carbon shrouded the sky with ash. Cadaverous bodies fertilize the earth, where ultimate goals of extermination, like any ethnic cleanse, bear the scorn that blows on the prevailing winds of change. Where the impossible dream of love finds purchase in hearts, frozen, imploding hate, yet spreading love like a virus, a vaccine cure, the light of reason over the fear of darkness. Will the strength of love overwhelm the fevers of hate and withstand the decimating attacks on all dimensions of this human body? Will the vision of peace be blurred? No, blinded by the power of violence and hate. Who of these scattered tribes will survive to see if hope is lost in Gaza? Next piece. No less evil than these two, the only evils to choose from. Epigraph. A knee takes a stand on the neck of storytellers muffled by both parties. Mathematics. When they no longer wear hoods, spewing hate from under red hats. When dog whistles we can all hear are blown, sounds like a roll call. We watch them line up, count votes, polls predict winners, dispute without a dispute. Media no longer questions results, afraid they'll lose their readership to challenge the status quo, upset the base, lose their vote. True believers retire instead of telling the truth. We continue to swallow the bile, vomit on the backs of the martyrs murdered for rights that continue to be wronged. Leaders avoid debate, never question the colonizer's machine fulfilling the imperial dream, while fringing behind the scenes, complaining in shadows, whispering behind their hands, tied behind their backs, cut out their own twisted tongues instead of shaking the walls down, waiting for earthquakes under the ocean, wondering like idiots where the tsunami is going to come from. Epicenters under graveyards, ancestors rolling thunder under the land stolen by the industries, invented by the ones, discovered by the ones that could write the story that pleased His Majesty, that could read, but never listen to the tales told by village griots for 17 generations, passed down with vivid details of how life began, becoming myths spread like rumors around the campfire, never believed again because the grapevine was for illiterates. The drumbeat, heartbeats were for savages that couldn't read, preferred spoken words. Industrial colonizers that owned the presses spread the words, turned to conspiracy theories that mimic the truths that used to be facts that no one wants to believe because the lie sounds better, coming from the cultural grifters, inbred liars that sustain the way things are by making paper from ashes of books burned like towering infernal crosses on fires in the front lawns of houses built on graveyards dug in quicksands of stories never written and never told again. Our stories banished to the river of time that runs backward to repeat the lessons that were never learned because the forgotten truths were never taught. Fear, disguised as guilt, revealed the sins of your great-great-grandfathers committed against an unconscious subconscious without a conscience, because you were told the story of how the brave patriot was born. Sorry, not sorry, for the stream of conscious conscience that sounds like the rant of Babel that upsets the rabble, cheering in the back for the liars in front, waving banners, calling a history that never was, when the meaning of the truth and justice and democracy served a way that is paved to hell, we will never come back from if leaders that grow a spine are silenced by the ones that have the most to lose because they have stolen the most. And so it goes. The ignorant are kept in the dark by torch-bearing liars that shout the lies that times need changing, but instead stand still, stuck in the past. Peace.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Norm, for both of those pieces. It's always a delight to hear your poetry and especially the treat of hearing some new work. So thank you. Next up, I would like to invite BLA up to the mic. Welcome.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. I'm BLA, and I'm going to share a few pieces with you. Hey, Denise. Can't wait to see you. But I'm going to share a few pieces with you all, and hopefully you connect with them. This first piece is untitled, and if you want to close your eyeballs, that's totally okay. If you want to leave them open, that's fine also. But I'm going to go ahead and just share it with you. So, in a world where sensitivity is mishandled and vulnerability is ill-favored, be as soft as you please, but take with you your mind. And though your heart is much more of what you need, please take with you your spine. And though your tears are gemstones, please take with you protection. And though you've legs to walk these roads, take your eyes for direction. That was my first piece. And the second piece is titled Lucky. There are 3 pieces to that. So let me kind of just get that going. Thank you. Okay. Lucky. Lucky. Lucky I never publicly called your bluff. Lucky I never played fake tough. Lucky I answered your call when you should have been blocked. You lucky I drove to that parking lot. Lucky I never crossed you. You lucky I love like I do. Lucky I was never phony and played nice in a room full of snakes. Lucky I was never weak and told a lie to your face. Lucky I never sold you out for a man's attention. You lucky I left you out my mentions. Lucky you got away with saying I was almost pretty with the same mouth you preach your sermons with. You lucky I'm clever as a wordsmith. Lucky I never burned our bridge because I trusted you less than a hater. You lucky I never saved you for later. Lucky I handled you the way I did instead of sending out a PowerPoint presentation on how you really treat your people. You lucky I never chose to carry your evil. Lucky. Lucky I never felt the need to connect with your ops just because we fell off. Lucky I never met you at your level because I care about what it costs. Lucky I never needed external validation just to keep it real. You lucky I got some of that church girl in me still. When I say that you're lucky, I mean that goes for me too. You may have wiggled your way around the people you play, but you still gonna have to answer for the things that you do. Lucky. Oh, thank you. Let me see. And I guess I will wrap it up with one piece, with the final piece. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Denise. Okay. Your heart has carried more grief than it has ever planned, and your hands have held many things, but today it only remembers what it cannot. And you've journeyed down so many roads, but as of late, it seems you've not a single plot. And you've many questions like, how will this end? How could this happen? And also why? Sometimes wondering what would happen if you chose to no longer try. And no one can take on this weight that pulls you deep, nor all of the ways that you may feel. But if you never write your part of the story, then my love, who will? So for today, and maybe even tomorrow, or for even some time, may you let yourself just be and feel the hearts that love you wrap around you like the roots to a tree. And we will love you in your sorrow, in your joy, in your uncertainty, and when you again stand with your feet set, where the sunshine will once more find its way to you just in case you forget. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those poems. That was wonderful. So exciting to hear your poetry. Thank you. Next up, I would like to invite Dion Jamal up to the mic. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I got two pieces for you. One from my book, that'll be coming out. That's coming out April 17th. This one is called Gucci. I have my grandfather's hands. At a funeral repast, caramel-colored kin pass around glossy pieces of our past. His amber eyes sparkle like a pair of burning bushes. I ask, who is this? An elder takes my hand, her memories like fingerprints slowly raised. This man is your great grandpa. He once saved your grandpa's life. You have his hands. It was your grandfather's hands holding son through moss-draped cypress saturated in moonlight, holding them for their very lives, avoiding alligators roaming the banks of the bayou, the sweet southern air thick with boiling clouds of mosquitoes and vapors of malaria. It was your grandfather's right hand, the hand they threatened to chop off, wiping sons' tears as they moved through the bog terrain, each step sinking them deeper into the mire of the Big Easy. Later, it was those same hands teaching sons the tailor trade, styling them for a life of careful measures, all while stitching dreams, tailor-making true love. And just like salt and sage before, I will take destiny into my hands, cutting and sewing the stories of those unwilling to toe the line. Paper my cloth, pen my needle, history my muse, using my grandfather's hands. That's that first piece. My second piece, I stopped writing poetry for a minute, just to get a break. But you know, writers write, and the pen is how we express. And this is called, I think it's untitled. But hold on. It's untitled. I stopped writing poetry thinking that my mind needed peace, only to find my peace came when writing a piece. You see, I was born to write poetry from a haiku to free verse. The reasons are universal and diverse. I write for nature, be it an eagle's shrill mating call, the thunderous applause of rain, the whispering of snowfall. I write for the ancestors whose graves lie in the depth of the sea, who would rather die than live in hypocrisy. I write for those who endured 400 years of whip and chain, who still to this day remain shackled to history's pain. I write for elders with no right to speak, all while dodging lynch mobs in the southern streets. I write for Rumi, Dunbar, Pushkin, Langston, Maya, and Bukowski, all them poets from Watts. I write for gospel, the blues, R&B, jazz, ska, reggae, soul, funk, punk, rock, and hip hop. I write for those brown babies birthed in this hateful place, for mamas not shown the slightest respect or grace. I write for the daddies who never lived to see what their fathers fought and prayed for them to be. I write for those in the constant state of fight, flight, or freeze, be they nation, African, be they First Nation, African American, poor whites, Palestinian, or Congolese. I write for all of God's children's children, shell shocked by harsh words or unnecessary wars. PhD pushing carts beside schizophrenics whose veil of reality is torn. I, just like the poets before, always had a prose or verse on the tongue, so that when it's done, another one comes. For the craft of balladry, 'tis forever my master. Now please accept this offering of oil and alabaster. Thank you.
Incredible. Thank you for sharing those poems, and congratulations on your book as well. That's very exciting. Thank you. Next up, I would like to invite Mukate Kawinzi up to the mic. Welcome back.
Hello, thank you. My name is Mukase. I'm a shepherd and grazier. I work in Pescadero with a herd of Spanish Cashmere range goats for ecological management. But right now I'm on a different ranch, even further south in California, where I'm learning a more broad sense of land management. I love being a rancher. I love being out with the goats, but I miss Black people a lot. It's rough. So I hope I get to do this work alongside Black folk one day. I've been trying to write these poems about grass because I look at grass all day, but because I am a field Negro, they are also about Blackness. So I'm going to read two, and the first is about some of the alienation that I feel as I hear stories from the urban world coming to me while I'm like in the midst of nature. And the second is just about some of the wonder that I feel as I learn more about ecosystem function. To turn back to the world. Today, false brome. Today was a rookie on the force. Today, Himalayan blackberry, invasive, the non-native one. Today, didn't pose a threat. Today, perennial lupine. Today, objectionably reasonable. Today, wild strawberries. Today, mistook her handgun for a taser. Today, yellow glandweed. Today, unrest, racial. Today, wild radish. Today, Dijon cuisine, sticky monkey flower, peaceful and non-destructive. Today, little quaking grass. Today, 4 nights of unrest, rescue brome. Today, hemlock at head's height. Today, changing forget-me-not. No, not every blade furls out before the field wholly browns. And yes, memory ends before names do. And which one is this one? 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 And this last one is called Ripgut. Italian thistle has tied free to my cuttings these last days. In later Junes, rough touch recalled, I'll spore less bare. I asked Charles Darwin, come, eye the goats with me, and how they eat spined things. Charles Darwin picks up a rock. He tells me, the present is the key to the past. I want Charles Darwin to know I know something. I want Charles Darwin to remember me. I speak to him of beetles that bore earth. I tell Charles Darwin that we have rollers here. I say to him, Charlie, I've watched them roll dung, face down, ass up. Do not question me for using 2 Live Crew as a way to Charles Darwin's heart. I have learned in life there is no slicker way to charm white folk than to let them into blackness. Charles Darwin finishes the lyric. Charles Darwin and I squat into the roiled ripnet and count morning spider webs. Thank you.
Those were beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing those pieces and also sharing where you're situated right now. I love how you're bridging the two. Thank you. Next up, I would like to invite Susan Singleton up to the mic. Welcome, Susan.
Good evening, everyone. So happy to be here. Hi, Nia. Nice to see you again. So I'm gonna be honest with y'all. This is my second time reading poetry ever in life, so just bear with me. The 2 pieces that I'm gonna share are just thinking about the ocean as like an ancestor almost. And so the first piece is called Notes on Diving. The highest dive on record is held by a man that plummeted 172 feet into record books that know him by name, fell intentionally 52.5 meters from sky into water. He practiced to perfection this dive off of beautiful coasts in Europe, rehearsing the movements, refining the technique to ensure his survival. How do we record mothers who flailed off ships and landed feet first into waters that were her last resort, pushing the water around her body, carrying her grief, and in her round belly, her baby, carving out space under the surface of thick waves to make room for her arrival to her final resting place? What was her name? Where do I find the stories of the bloodlines of chosen sisters, clasped hand in hand, standing on the slippery edge of the ship, the ridges of mahogany failing to offer much traction under their tiny, soiled toes? The muffled shouts in foreign European tongue behind them questioning their right to this freedom go silent, muted by the hum of Oshun's welcome home song, held their breath in their chests and jumped. I'd like to think they grew tails and kept living. The ocean is the diaspora's largest burial ground, for the water separates homeland from home. A dip in the ocean and a dive into her waters is like sinking into histories told in waves. Sounds and stories that fill your ears by muffling all other sounds, and clears minutes later when she's done singing. Drips from the canal of your ear in a single file line of slow-moving droplets and settles into your skin. She's speaking. Shh. All of the blood and skin becomes ocean and comes back as rain. Wax and wane between continents' shores and carries her descendants across waters with the dance of her currents. Moves her hips in tandem with the moon. Bubbles up and ripples out, rises and falls on herself, etching her story into rock over and over. Next time you sit and talk to the ocean, greet her, for she is a capsule, galaxies vast of relentless narrative. Be still and listen. So that's the first one. The second one is called Mama Ocean. Mama Ocean, suspended in the water I float, weightless, rinsing my psyche free of thoughts that this body is too heavy for my feet, for life above water. As an onlooker, I watch you move, so gentle, yet so angry, pondering that this water in me in some form existed in you first. Of you, I am of you. The water of my body belongs to you. The bone dust you carry in your ripples, mine too. This water, This me, this body, 70% water, and I somehow think I am too heavy, too full, too much, too big. And I look at the vastness of you and remember, I am you. Your bigness makes you mighty. The stories in your waters whisper affirmations into my ears in the morning, awakens me, shocks me back alive from nightmares and day terrors, hyper-focused on where I lack, fixated on imperfections. Your bigness makes you mighty. The stories in your waters lullaby my insecurities to sleep. Dead, you at once hold the good and bad, joys and lows, that which I am proud of and that which I wish to rinse away. You're all encompassing in that way. Hold bodies too soon sent to you under circumstances so unfair, and raise up the sing-songs of their stories, collective hymn, oceanic orchestra, woodwinds made from bones, harmonies of anguish and scales of sorrow, cries and shouts and ring shouts and calls and responses of love and laughter, of ancient love story, of calm, of chaos, of tears, of longing, of defeat, of we never really leave here. You hold us unabashedly, unashamed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan. That was so amazing. I echo what Joyce just said in the chat about just the rhythm that you read with. That was beautiful. And I'm so excited for all the mics that you'll continue to read on. Thank you for sharing. Next up, I would like to invite Anthony Fungari up to the mic. Welcome, Anthony.
Hey, thank you folks for having me. Thank you, Denise, for putting me on the list. I appreciate it. Excited to hear you read. This is a new poem. I haven't read a new poem in probably a couple of years. It's a ghazal. It's called London. I don't know what the fuck they're saying in London. Something about living by a river, about debts, exploration, and quality cotton, about snakes tangling tail to belly in London. I spat on Cleopatra's needle when I saw it there. It lies between two iron sphinxes made in London, with a plaque commemorating something about war, the obelisk's story, and then there's me in London, rolling a thin spliff outside Buckingham Palace, asking the soldiers something about art in London, about Commonwealth, Lord Cormer in 1882, and why I can't find any good weed in London. My eyes low, thingified, while he hugs an empty bullpup rifle. This means love in London. A Shakespearean love story between me and empty gun-licked gums in London. And the second one on theme, Dear England. I told a Saidi joke in my grandfather's eulogy. Imagine that. A room full of Egyptians mourning and laughing in English. Speaking your spill, motor oil silting. We hear you in every word, England. Strung out in the room, gripping a map of Africa with one hand and a butter knife in the other, scraping names, blotting lines. Giddu told me an English soldier killed his father after the occupation. 2 generations later, we are in this room, jowls marred by that same bullet. Your language, always held like heavy rocks in Giddu's mouth, wilted his words into flaps of themselves. He would call me Khoaga, laugh at my weak tongue, and I think of shells splitting cobras, my family from the mouth. Thank you.
Thank you so much for both of those pieces. Those were wonderful. Again, so exciting to hear new work, and this is such a treat for all of us. Next up, I would like to invite Joyce Young up to the mic. Welcome, Joyce. you're speaking, we can't hear you yet, Joyce. No problem. If you want, Joyce, I can do a short one and then we can come back to you. How does that sound? All right, I'm going to do a short poem and hopefully Joyce's phone will be working in just a minute. Let's see. I was going back and forth between what to read today because I too am in the mindset of like new poems and all of that. Let's see. All right. Oh, hold on a sec. Joyce is coming back. All right. A new poem. All right. The state licks its fingers clean, picks a bone from its plate, wrestles the debris in its bloody gums. Tongue in cheek, it polishes off the seeds caught in the valleys of its pearly blade, momentarily satisfied with the forced removal of stubborn inhabitants. The state returns to its violent feast, jackal-gated and howling with greed. It yearns for yet another prospect to seize. The next dish, and the next, and the next are emptied swiftly, rinds and pits scattered about, a sloppy delivery of pleasure. It thinks, how beautiful a surface wiped clean. The state rejoices the arrival of the final course, and by candlelight, a dessert of oil-rich possibility enters. The invisible music swells, and the sparklers atop rupture. Eager to devour this gluttonous display of celebration, the state closes its eyes and blows out the candle. In the dark, a bone is picked, a gum is emptied, the plate is cleared, but the seeds have already begun to grow. Thank you. All right, Joyce, you ready to come up to the open mic?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yay.
Yay.
Thank you. I'm in my car because I couldn't make it home in time. So I'm going to leave my camera off. Just let me know if I fade out. I'm trying to stay with the microphone here. So this first poem is based on American history that, of course, some people are trying to suppress, wipe out. It can't be wiped out. But anyway, this is the event. On November 22nd, 1865, Mississippi required local sheriffs to round up Black orphans and sell them to white people as laborers. And I got this from the Equal Justice Initiative calendar. So this is a pantoum that I wrote about that. Children, Mississippi, 1865. Were they really orphans? What made them orphans? You checked the property lists for their parents? Either way, it's clear you didn't bother. What made them orphans? Parents sold off? Sold to your friends for cheap labor? Either way, it's clear you didn't care. Children without parents are an easy target. Sold to your friends for cheap labor. And while we're talking targets, children without parents are always targets for state-sanctioned men with guns. And while we're talking targets, sheriffs rounded children up, state-sanctioned men with guns. Children had no records, so who cared? Sheriffs rounded children up. Were they really orphans? They had no records, so who cared? Missing property lists. Parents sold off. I think I'm just going to do one more, and this one is about I guess I will say a situation with some of my neighbors. Neighbors Haibun. It's Friday night. Technically, it's Saturday morning, 2 a.m. Downstairs, a young, drunk Asian dude and his friend sing, but can't sing loudly, slam doors, bang on the walls and ceiling. While the banging transpires, they turn electronic music up as high as it can go. And one of them yells, "No one works on Saturday." One upstairs neighbor does work on Saturday, has tried to let them know she needs to sleep. Then two middle-aged women neighbors, one black enraged with another white in solidarity, knock, ask young, drunk Asian dude and friends to be a lot quieter than they have ever been on this evening or any. Two neighbors text one another to strategize. Eventually, the Saturday working upstairs neighbor loses her cool, releases her ethics, and calls in a noise complaint to the police, twice. Dark blue uniforms arrive, and two eavesdropping neighbors upstairs hear a police voice citing neighbors' complaints, warning he doesn't want to have to come back. Cops leave, and loud, young, drunk Asian dude complains. He says loudly to his friends, "I helped a white guy move in, and I have to hear footsteps overhead at 8 a.m. The eavesdropping, how could she avoid it, neighbor, thinks, "You think you deserve a halo for that? Angel's wings, perhaps?" Young, drunk, privileged Asian dude neighbor, helping a white guy move in does not give you a pass. You have a lot to learn. Cicadas sing at night in backyard gardens, but no one can hear them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joyce, for both of those poems. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to do one more short one and then introduce our feature for tonight. I love that there's been so many themes today that organically happen, and this often happens in these open mics, whether it's new poems or nature poems. So I'm going to keep on that new poem thread. The fire this time. I've watched skin sew itself back up, freshly cut edges tugging back to center, back to center, back to center. The body's rivers of wrinkles, a geography of healing. Outside, the echoes of youth sing on the backs of kites, an insistence of small joy. How dare you condemn this freedom? What of your proof of life with the wind whistling through your lungs like a ghost? The fire this time suited up for service. And live we watch guns drawn to flames. No clearer message could be sent with smoke signals, and yet some still wonder who will come save us. Haven't they told you we are the ones we are waiting for? And it is now my honor to introduce our featured poet for this evening. Denise Masiel is a Caribbean American essayist and poet from Texas. She is a storyteller dedicated to the art of capturing feelings of warmth, passion, and visceral emotions in her work. Her poetry has been published in the Ana and Mujer Manifesto, and she is an active spoken word performer throughout the Bay Area. Though she is a fighter in spirit, she is a lover at heart. Welcome, Denise.
Hey everyone, can y'all hear me all right? Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Nia, for having me here. Thank you everyone for sharing. I love this open mic, and it was actually one of my first open mics when I first started doing poetry, and hearing everyone's powerful stories really reminds me that poetry is storytelling. It's collecting all of our experiences and of ourselves and of our families to share with the world. So thank you all so much for sharing. First, I want to acknowledge there is a genocide happening right now, and I want to stand in solidarity with my brothers and sisters in Palestine and Gaza. I think what makes me and my Blackness is solidarity and knowing what it feels like to be targeted for something out of your control, like where you come from or what the color of your skin looks like. I'm going to drop some links in the chat with some resources and also some handles you can follow on Instagram. It's important for us to stay informed of what's going on and to make sure that if we can't be there with them physically in support, that we amplify their voices and their stories and make sure they're never forgotten. So with that being said, also I might cry today. I'm a little leaky. The moon is in, Sag, whatever, is that time. And also my mom and my sister are listening in from Texas. They've never heard me. My sister's heard me do poems, but my mom's never heard me do poetry before. So again, I want to thank MoAD for making this format be online and accessible, and for allowing us to connect all across the world. I'm crying already. All across the world. So I'm happy to share this because a lot of my poems today are about my family, and it's just our memories. So I'm very excited. I'm happy to share. I'm gonna pull it up. So this first poem, when I first moved to California, immediately I knew like this was a place that feels the most like home that I've ever lived in. But what makes home for me is my family. And so not having my family here was a big mental struggle of trying to like reconcile who I'm becoming in California without losing who I was and my family back home. So these first two poems kind of deal with those themes. This first one's called Bicoastal. Let me dry the tears real quickly. Okay, Bicoastal. My mouth opens wide when it rains, thirsty for drops of renewal, for something to feed my roots and nurture each node. I want to burrow deeper into the soil. I yearn for the resiliency of magnolias that bud in the dead of February winter. I smell them from my bedroom, soft petals that have fallen from stripping rain, still tender to touch, lovely and potent in smell, despite the harsh winds and despite the frigid conditions. Erected all over San Francisco, magnolias remind me of my mother and my sister and myself. My toes melt in a pool of their bone white decay. I fix my eyes to the gray skies and ask the universe for a sign, for some act of God to direct my path, to strike me down if I veered too far, to part the sea and give me free room should I need to trek back to my people. I speak in tongues and offer sacrifice. I hold my hands out in prayer and beg to be fed. A ray of light emerges from the clouds. It satiates my hunger and soothes over every nerve. My mouth still salivates for the truth. My heart still pulls towards a place to call home. Thank you. And to look like retrospectively, I think when I was writing these poems, which I no longer feel like as identity confused, I think, I realized that being here in California while my family is still in Texas, it just means it takes a little bit more work and a little more intentionality in staying connected. And that's the Black diaspora experience. That's the immigrant diaspora experience. It takes a lot of intentionality and work. And I think because it is so intentional, it means a lot more when I get to go home and when I get to see them or when they get to tune in like they do now. But this poem was written when I was still kind of reconciling with that. So this next poem is called Diaspora. The immigrant experience means everywhere is home and nowhere is home. America is not my home. I feel this deep in my bones. This land is not mine, not tended and loved by my people. I take on this role in honor of those who have sacrificed, but this American system is not set up for me to succeed. It sees my Black skin as a threat, my kinky hair as a revolt. My hand reaches to my homeland. It feels light years away. Loved one's blood pump weakly through my veins. Cultural ties fissure with each passing day. How different my life is from my kin. How privileged I am to have the American dream. This twisted nightmare of dead Black bodies, of racist orange misogynists running this country, of my hometown where I grew up and where I learned to drive, of where I first found love and where my flailing arms first stroked to swim. A town that held only 5 of my family members, with my mother's side back in the Dominican Republic and my father's side away in Jamaica. Missed births and deaths, forgotten birthdays, uncelebrated holidays, no sancocho for Christmas, no jerk chicken after church. Everywhere is home and nowhere is home. I am Caribbean and I am American. I am Black and I am Latina. I am strong-willed and soft-hearted. Since I am this mixture, tiny, incomplete pieces of everything, in wholeness, am I nothing distinct at all? Thank you. Let me do one more blot. I feel myself tightening up, so that's good. You know, like it feels like I'm like, you know, I had a purge, get it out. Oh man. But what I do love about this space with MoAD and this open mic is like I've been doing this open mic so many times now, and every time it just feels like a safe place. So I thank y'all for allowing me to cry it out. And speaking kind of on like cultural ties and preserving these parts of myself when I moved away. And America is so big, it kind of feels like if you move away from one state to the next, like let's say you move different coasts, it kind of feels like you're moving countries because America is just that big. So I was trying to figure out how to preserve my ethnic culture while still being able to adapt to new California culture. And what I found was food. You know, food is a big tie for cultures, and it's a big tie in Black culture specifically, and in Middle Eastern culture, and in every ethnic culture. We bring back our spices from our homelands. My grandma comes back with suitcases of bula cake and of food. You know, my mom comes back with suitcases of Dominican ketchup, which tastes different than American ketchup. I will say it's better. So I think food was really for me how I could keep my culture. And my mom and my grandma and my aunts, they were always in the kitchen cooking. Like they were producing these mass meals, kind of like a ceremony all the time. And I think as a child, I did not appreciate that. I definitely didn't understand how much labor it took to produce meals that they were producing. And as an adult, I really respect what they did because it is those memories of my childhood that tie me back to my culture. So this poem is called Food is the Sixth Love Language. Cooking has always brought me solace. I turn off my brain and let my nose do the work, sniffing which herb is dying to be thrown in the mix, smelling how much garlic is too much. My Dominican mother taught me what a cook looked like, how to eyeball a recipe down to the ounces. No measuring cups, only a sixth sense intuition. Don't worry, the rice won't come out soggy. It will be plump and flavorful, coat every taste bud with euphoria. Pair it with pollo guisado, cut up some aguacate, pickle cebolla roja y ponte arriba del arroz. You have a timeless meal. A meal of the gods, a staple of the Taino people. If 2 or more warm bodies were joining for dinner, a proper meal was served. Cooking in our house was communal. My Jamaican grandmother would have her soap operas drone on in the background. We sat down to cut the vegetables, took our time with each slice, asked each other about their days, spilled the latest gossip over giggles. Grandma directed the oven like a symphony. A circus juggler of food, she'd master pack 3 to 4 dishes in, usually jerk chicken or coconut rice and peas, stewed oxtail or steamed callaloo. Grandma is as much of a cook as she is a baker. On weekends, the countertops overflowed with tins of carrot cake, aluminum squares of pound cake, each one to be later adorned by hand and piped delicately with icing. She told us secret recipes in offbeat moments, spoken fast and in patois. Are you gonna know if you make carrot cake? Make me show ya. We watched her hands dance over dishes. Grandma always showed more than she told. No written directions. Taking notes was not allowed. We mentally filed each tip as important to later recall that a dash of Kingston rum makes cakes fluffier. There's a finesse to cooking, a way to inject a tender piece of soul in every bite. It nurtures your heart, make you do a little happy dance from head to toe. Act of service be damned. Has anyone ever cooked you a 3-course meal? Slave for hours over a main dish with 2 sides, a pre-course salad, and bread pudding for dessert? Have they cooked it frequently and on any average Thursday, not just Thanksgiving or Christmas? Having someone make you just because food feels like a warm hug. It feels like love. Thank you. My mom's on this right now, so I can only imagine. Like, I bet she's crying because she's such a sweet and emotional mom, and I didn't share my poems with her for a long time, and she thought it was because they were like bad or like I don't know, about her in a bad way. And when I first started doing poetry, I was like, I was just a bunch of like really sad breakup stuff, Mom. Like, it's not about you. So I hope now she can see like all the things that I write about my mom and my grandma, and even my sister. It's always memories of love, and they're just really special to me because, you know, it does take me back to that kitchen when we're cooking together. So, you know, I hope that she liked that. Here we go. Anyways, I have one more poem to share with y'all. This one has been kind of weighing on me heavy. This poem is new and it just kind of spilled out of me. I think it was on Monday when I wrote it. And I saw the news about the 15-year-old Ryan Gaynor, who, for those of y'all who don't know, he was 15 and he was a child on the spectrum for autism, and he got shot and killed down in San Bernardino County here in California. He had a moment of anger, and he was wielding, it doesn't even matter what he was wielding, but he had a garden tool in his hand. And this 15-year-old boy seemed so deadly that he had to get murdered. And, you know, when I saw that all over my social media last week and this week, it really took me back to the initial Black Lives Matter movement in the summer of 2021. That was a really hard summer. And I remember I was in Austin at the time, and I went to a couple protests when it first happened, but then I decided to instead do first aid, volunteering instead. So a couple of friends and I had a nurse with me, and then I had we were just like we knew basic first aid, but we knew we had to get out there. So we raised funds and we bought water bottles and clementines for energy and snacks for glucose, and we had first aid kits with us, and we were just rolling around with the wagon in the back of the protests and in the front of the protests, just handing out food, free food and supplies to keep people in the Texas heat, make sure they wouldn't pass out. And it just reminds me of that. And I can't believe we're still going through this in America. And so I wrote about it. And this poem is called Target Practice. I am 16 years old, driving 15 miles per hour over the speed limit in a predominantly white neighborhood. The one I live in, the one I could drive through with my eyes closed. It is so ingrained in my unconscious. It's the place I call home. Red and blue sirens pull me over, but my windows have just been tinted. I can't roll them down. I can only open my door. I mouth this to the officer through the window. Innocent me at 16 years young. I reach to open the door. The officer reaches to shoot his gun. I don't know if it was fate or luck or God that allowed me to drive away. Alive, but with numbed fingers. Alive, but with hot tears pouring out. I don't know if it was fate or luck or God that made me walk up a highway ramp during the summer of 2021. The summer of killings and riots and protests. A friend of a friend, Jordan, sat in protest on that ramp, high above an ongoing Black Lives Matter rally. A few feet away from a barricaded highway, the Texas sun illuminated her ebony skin. Her face was twisted and resistant. Police stood inches from her, their hands eager to fire fists and beanbags and silver-lined bullets into her unarmed Black body, using her tender and gentle flesh as the day's target practice. Just as they'd done to an unarmed teenage boy a few days prior. They were about to do it unless she retreated back to the ground with the rest of the protesters and me. She was alive too, maybe with numb fingers. Hot tears poured down her eyes. I went up to her, pleading and extending my hand. Take it, please, I begged. Come down with me, I begged. Her fingers interlocked mine. Shakily, we descended down. A Black body saved, one that could have so easily been taken. I am tired of seeing Black bodies brutalized, I tell my white social justice professor. I'm tired of seeing bodies that look like me, or my brother, or my cousin, or my future son, I say, right before he tells me that these brutal images are necessary for change. Our beautiful bodies, divine with every curve, used as martyrs, as sacrifices, as something to wince at before you shut off the news and return ignorantly back to your normal life. if this earth could talk, if these oceans could scream, the sacrificial voices of all those slain would curdle our ears and boil your blood. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much, Denise, for all of those pieces, for bringing us so intimately into your own lived experience, and for allowing us to be witness to you sharing these poems with your family. What a special moment. I feel so grateful to experience that with you. And so before we close out, I do want to give you another moment to share ways that we can support you or support your community, whether it's upcoming readings or websites, other places we can read more or hear more of your work. If you'd please share just for a moment.
Yeah. Oh man, it's been a crazy year of performing poetry. I get just like random opportunities. The one of this being a random opportunity, Nia, and I think it's through our community that we hear good shit and we want to share it with the world, you know. I've had so many poetry readings this past couple of months. I don't have any coming up. I think I'm taking a little hiatus for a while just to kind of recoup. But that being said, you know, my work is available on my Instagram. I'll drop my handle here in the chat. I also have a Substack where I do writings, and this is my year of getting my writing shit together. So I'm making a website. Y'all hold me to that word, you know, hold me to it. I'm making a website. But for now, just my Instagram is great, and I'd love to connect with y'all there on email as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And you know, hopefully you'll have more readings in the future. And I invite everyone for now to support you through your website and check you out on Instagram. I want to thank everyone for coming and participating today, for being such an active and supportive audience. And I would love for you to spend a few moments after this program filling out a short program survey. Please let us know your experience at this program, things you'd like to see in the future. This is one of the many programs that we host. As I mentioned in the beginning, we host programs both in person at our physical museum in San Francisco, as well as programs virtually. So I invite you to visit our website, moadsf.org, to check out upcoming events. Next week is special. We've had our doors closed for just a couple of weeks to reinstall new exhibitions. And so next week on March 27th, we'll be unveiling our spring exhibitions with some really, really exciting shows. So I invite you to plan your visit and come visit us in person. Check out these exhibitions and come to some of our in-person programs. We really appreciate all the ways that you stay engaged with the museum, whether that is by becoming a member, making a donation, coming to our programs, or spreading the word about what we do. So we really appreciate you engaging with all the work that we do. And I hope to see you at a future program. Thank you. Take care, everyone.